Internal Revenue Service, IRS tax news. National Taxpayer Advocate delivers annual report to Congress, focuses on taxpayer impact of processing and refund delays. IR 2022-11, January 12, 2022, Washington. The National Taxpayer Advocate Erin M today released her 2021 annual report to Congress. There's a link to it here, calling calendar year 2021, quote, the most challenging year taxpayers and tax professionals has ever experienced, end quote. The report says tens of millions of taxpayers experienced delays in the processing of their returns, and with 77% of the individual taxpayers receiving refunds, quote, processing delays translated directly into refund delays, end quote. The report credits the Internal Revenue Service for performing well under difficult circumstances. Since the start of the pandemic, the IRS, in addition to its traditional work, has implemented significant programs enacted by Congress. So just note, again, I kind of make jokes on the government in general and the IRS, but I do just want to point out that the IRS is the facilitator of the laws themselves. The people putting into place the laws is, of course, the lawmakers, the Congress. And so you can agree or disagree with basically the laws, but the IRS implementing the laws after they have been created is a situation where the IRS has, of course, taken on a lot of work to deal with these laws that have been put in place and having significant changes in a system that is designed basically to be static and not change too much, because if it's static and doesn't change too much, we as taxpayers have more security. We know what to expect in the future, and that's usually good for the economy. So it's been weird situations for the IRS, I'm sure. So let's go forward here. Among other things, it has issued 478 million stimulus payments, referred to as economic impact payments, or EIPs, totaling $812 billion, and has sent advanced child tax credit, the AdvCTC payments, to over 36 million families, totaling $93 billion. The report says, quote, the imbalance between the IRS's workload and its resources has never been greater, end quote. Since fiscal year 2010, the IRS workforce has shrunk by 17%, while its workload, as measured by the number of individual return filings, has increased by 19%. The report reiterates the National Taxpayer Advocate's long-standing recommendation that Congress provide the IRS with sufficient funding to serve taxpayers well. Major challenges for taxpayers. Quote, there is no way to sugarcoat the year 2021 in tax administration, end quote. Collins wrote, quote, the year 2021 provided no shortage of taxpayer problems, end quote. Quote, while my report focuses primarily on the problems of 2021, I'm deeply concerned about the upcoming filing season, end quote. Collins added in releasing the report, quote, paper is the IRS's kryptonite, and the agency is still buried in it, end quote. As of late December, the IRS has backlogged of 6 million unprocessed original individual returns, Forms 1040, 2.3 million unprocessed amended individual returns, Form 1040X, more than 2 million unprocessed employers' quarterly tax returns, Form 941 and 941X, and about 5 million pieces of taxpayer correspondence, with some of these submissions dating back at least to April, and many taxpayers still waiting for their refunds 9 months later. Although e-filed returns failed better than paper returns, so the e-file returns fared better than the paper returns. The report says millions of e-file returns were suspended during processing due to discrepancies between amounts claimed on the returns and amounts reflected on the IRS records. The most common discrepancy involved recovery rebate credit, the RRC, claims by taxpayers who did not receive some or all of their stimulus payments as the EIPs from the prior year. So obviously the recovery rebate credit is connected to the stimulus payments. They tried to do this prepayment thing, this thing where they send out the payments before they have the tax return, and you have a similar situation that they're doing this year with the advanced child tax credits. So this is their new thing, but it takes a lot of estimates, and it's a change to the tax code. It's a big change of the way things were done in the past. So obviously that's going to cause more problems. So these returns had to be manually reviewed, and the IRS issued more than 11 million math error notices to taxpayers over RRC discrepancies with the IRS records. When a taxpayer disagreed with a math error notice and submitted a response, the taxpayer's response went into the IRS paper processing backlog, further delaying the refund. So Collins is concerned that the number of returns suspended and requiring manual processing is likely to be high again in 2022. In March, Congress authorized 2 advanced tax credits that may result in additional discrepancies between amounts claimed on tax returns and in the IRS records. So again, now they got this new CTC, or child tax credit advance payment, and obviously they've added a whole lot of tools just to try to accommodate the problems that have happened before the tax filing season has even happened. And so now we're in the tax filing season. So we'll see how it goes with that one. So it authorized a 3rd round of EIPs that may be claimed as RRCs. So we got the 3rd round of economic impact payments, which are another form of advance payments that are tied to the 2021 tax returns, that if they didn't go right, then you've got the recovery rebate credit to deal with. And that also is these advance payments are huge areas of fraud, potential fraud to be taking place as well. In any case, by taxpayers who did not receive them, and it authorized monthly payments of the advanced child tax credit, the advanced CTCs, for the second half of 2021, both of which will have to be claimed and or reconciled on the 2021 individual tax return. The IRS is attempting to minimize discrepancies by sending notices to taxpayers who received the EIPs and advanced CTCs showing how much they received, but millions of discrepancies and math error notices remain likely. At the postponed filing deadline of May 17, 2021, the IRS was holding 35.3 million tax returns for employee review that consisted of roughly half unprocessed paper returns and half tax returns suspended during processing, leading to refund delays for many of those taxpayers. Quote, refund delays have a disproportionate impact on low-income taxpayers, end quote. The report says, quote, earned income tax credit, the EITC, benefits are worth up to $6,660. Child tax credit benefits were worth up to $2,000 per qualifying child under tax year 2020 rules. They upped that for 2021, of course. And the RRC are potentially worth several $1,000s for families who did not receive some or all of their EIPs, the economic impact payments. So they're saying, obviously, these delays are going to be implementing the low-income individuals, and most of the stimulus happened, kind of changed the tax code and the way things were working with these prepayments on the lower side of the tax return in order to basically accommodate some of the issues that were happening. But obviously, that also made the low-income tax returns way more complex than they ever were before, because the tax returns, it used to be that if you didn't owe any taxes, then you didn't even have to file a tax return. It was pretty straightforward kind of thing. And now, of course, you've got a lot of complexity with the earned income tax credit. It's probably one of the most complicated tax credits to calculate. These prepayments on the payments are confusing as well, especially for families that have a non-traditional kind of format in terms of the family structure. And then now you've got these recovery rebate credits with the prepayments, and you take into consideration the health prepayment too with the workplace kind of thing where they prepay your information for the health insurance. It gets confusing. But in any case, millions of taxpayers rely on the benefits from these programs to pay their basic living expenses. And when refunds are substantially delayed, the financial impact can range from mild inconvenience to severe financial hardship, end quote. The report says processing delays led to a cascade of customer service problems. The IRS's, quote, where's my refund, end quote, tool often could not answer the question. Taxpayers attempting to check the status of their refund on irs.gov for then 632 million times last year, but, quote, where's my refund, end quote, was not provide information on unprocessed returns, and it does not explain any status delays. So obviously, if you check the where's my refund and there's a delay in the return, it can't do anything because it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know what the problem is. So the reason for the delays were returns stand in processing pipeline, or what action taxpayers need to take, if any. For taxpayers who experienced significant refund delays, the tool often did not do its job. Telephone service was the worst it has ever been. And that's for sure. It's never been good, and too, it wasn't like good in the starting point. So the combination of processing delays and questions about new programs like the advanced CTC caused call volumes to almost triple from the prior year to a record 282 million telephone calls. Customer service representatives, CSRs, only answered about 32 million, or 11% of those calls. As a result, most callers could not obtain answers to their tax law questions, get help with the account problems, or speak with the CSR about compliance notice. Although they did get to listen to classical music on hold, which should have calmed them and made them feel far better than talking to anyone from the IRS. In any case, quote, among the lucky 1 in 9 callers who was able to reach a CSC, the IRS reported that hold times averaged 23 minutes, end quote. The report says, quote, practitioners and taxpayers have reported that hold times were often much longer, and frustration, dissatisfaction was high throughout the year with the lower level of the phone service. Yeah, I would think there would be a high level of dissatisfaction. So the IRS took months to process taxpayers' responses to its notices, further delaying refunds. The IRS sent tens of millions of notices to taxpayers during 2021. These included nearly 14 million math error notice, automated under reporter notices were and amount reported on the tax return did not match the corresponding amount reported to the IRS on Form 1099 or other information reporting documents. Notices requesting a taxpayer authenticate his or her identity, where IRS filters flagged a return as potentially fraudulent. Correspondence examination notices and collection notice. In many cases, taxpayers' responses were required, and if the IRS did not process a response, its automated processes could not take adverse action or not release the refund claimed on the tax return. The IRS received 6.2 million taxpayer responses to proposed adjustments and took an average of 199 days to process them, up from 74 days in the prior year, fiscal year 2019, the most recent pre-pandemic year. The 10 most serious problems encountered by the taxpayers. By status, the National Taxpayer Advocate is required to identify the 10 most serious problems encountered by taxpayers in their dealings with the IRS. This year's report details the following problems: processing refund delays, challenges in employee recruitment, hiring and training, telephone and in-person taxpayer service, transparency and clarity, filing season delays, limitations on online taxpayer accounts, limitations in digital taxpayer communication, including email, e-filing barriers, correspondence audits, and the impact of collection policies on low-income taxpayers. For each problem, the report includes an IRS response. Taxpayer Advocate Service Administration recommendations to the IRS. The report makes numerous recommendations to address taxpayer problems, including the following: utilize scanning technology and reduce barriers to e-filing. So obviously, technology is going to be a huge thing that they could do. You can see they're trying to improve their website. You would think there's a long way you would think they can go, and I'm not a technical person, but I mean, if you compare their online activity and so on, their website and whatnot, to like a bank, it seems like there's a lot more stuff that you could do online from the bank that's secure, it seems, because everybody uses it, that the IRS can kind of update on. So in any case, the IRS could reduce its backlog of paper tax returns by using scanning technology to machine read returns, as many state tax agencies have been doing for more than 10 years. In addition, some taxpayers have tried to e-file their returns or blocked for several reasons, including when they need to file certain tax forms that the IRS has not programmed its system to receive electronically. These Taxpayer Advocate Service, TAS, recommendations would reduce the need for IRS employees to manually transcribe the data from paper returns, the primary cause of backlog and the transaction errors that lead to math error notices and refund delays. Yeah, I can't believe they don't have all the forms in some kind of digital format at this point. But in any case, for individual taxpayers who filed on paper, the report says, quote, roughly 1 out of every 4 returns has a transcription error that could trigger an unwarranted compliance action or an erroneous refund that the IRS might later seek to recover, end quote. Deploy, quote, customer callback, end quote, technology on all telephone lines, as taxpayers and tax professionals don't have to wait on hold and can receive a return call when the next CSR is available. So instead of waiting on hold, they might be able to call you back with a more advanced telephone system, which again, You would think they could do that without too much. I mean, I don't. Customer callback technology is not a cure-all for IRS telephone operations, because if the IRS workforce only has the capacity to answer 32 million telephone calls, as it did last year, customer callback will not enable the IRS to handle the 250 million calls that went unanswered. But it would be kind of nice if at least it said, hey, the next available representative will be available in a month. At least you're not going to wait on hold in vainly for the next 5 minutes. However, many taxpayers call the IRS multiple times before they get through, and if effectively used, customer callback technology could substantially reduce the need for repeat calls, improve online taxpayer accounts, and allow taxpayers to communicate with the IRS routinely by secure email. The report says online taxpayer accounts are plagued by limited functionality. For example, taxpayers generally cannot use their online accounts to view images of past tax returns, most IRS notices, or proposed assessments, file documents, or update their addresses. Similarly, the IRS generally does not communicate with taxpayers by email. Limitations on communicating with the IRS electronically frustrates taxpayers who have been conducting comparable transactions with financial institutions for more than 2 decades. That is kind of frustrating. It seems kind of ridiculous. I mean, if your bank can do it, you would think the IRS could do it somehow, but whatever. Here we go. This increases the number of telephone calls and pieces of correspondence the IRS receives and leads to more paper processing delays. Create and update a weekly, quote, dashboard, end quote, on irs.gov to provide the public with specific information about delays. The IRS has created a webpage, IRS Operations During COVID-19 Mission Critical Functions Continue, that provides certain high-level information. However, it does not provide detailed information on processing backlogs, saying for amended returns only that, quote, the current time frame can be more than 20 weeks, end quote. And again, I think they do that because their justification is to say, we don't want to panic people or something like that, which is, I hate that justification from a central government, that is supposed to be, they should tell us what is going on. So the more transparency, the better to me. If they're backlogged, we should know that they're backlogged. We should know why they're backlogged, and they should make it public. And if people are interested, they're interested. If they're not, they're not. But this whole idea that they're going to keep the information from us all the time I really don't like that. In any case, it does not provide detailed information on correspondence backlogs, saying only that processing mail, quote, is taking longer than usual, end quote, and, quote, the exact time frame varies depending on the type of issue, end quote. It does not provide information on recent telephone delays, even though doing so would give taxpayers a better sense of whether they should devote time to calling. So, and again, that makes perfect sense to me. It shouldn't be hiding the fact that nobody can possibly get through to the IRS. It should say, hey, calling is in vain right now. You should, it's our system can't handle it. It is what it is. Any case, TAS recommends that the IRS post a filing season dashboard updating at least weekly that lists each category of work and the length of time it is taking to complete it. This should include the number of weeks to process original paper tax returns and amended paper returns, the number of weeks to process math error and other taxpayer correspondence by category, and the percentage of taxpayers who called the IRS the previous week and reached an employee. National Taxpayer Advocate, quote, Purple Book, end quote, of legislative recommendations. The National Taxpayer Advocate's 2022 Purple Book processes 68 legislative recommendations for consideration by Congress. Among them are the following: provide sufficient funding for the IRS to improve taxpayer service and modernize its information technology system. The IRS receives its annual appropriation in 4 accounts: taxpayer service, enforcement, operations, support, and business systems modernization. During the past year, there has been considerable discussion about substantially increasing funding for the enforcement account and related activities in the operations support account. The address taxpayer problems identified In this report, TAS recommends that Congress substantially increase funding for the Taxpayer Service Account, extend the period for receiving refund when the IRS postpones the tax filing deadline. When a taxpayer files a timely refund claim, the IRS generally is permitted to refund only amounts paid within the preceding 3 years. If a taxpayer files a return on April 15th and in year 1, the IRS generally may issue a refund until April 15th in year 4. In 2020, the IRS postponed the filing deadline for tax year 2019 tax returns from April 15th to July 15th due to COVID-19 pandemic. Taxpayers who filed the returns on July 15, 2020 may reasonably believe they have until July 15, 2023 to obtain full refunds. However, income tax withholding and estimates tax payments for tax year 2019 are deemed paid on April 15, 2020. As a result, refund claims filed after April 15, 2023 will be limited to the amounts taxpayers paid or were deemed to have paid April 15, 2020. A similar issue will arise in 2024 because the IRS postponed the 2021 filing deadline to May 17th. This result was not anticipated and will prevent some taxpayers from receiving the full refunds to which they are otherwise entitled. TAS recommends Congress clarify that postponement of the filing deadline extends the look-back period for paying refunds. Authorize the IRS to establish minimum standards for paid tax return preparers. Most taxpayers hire tax return preparers to complete their returns and visit the preparers by Government Accountability Office and Treasury Inspector General for tax administration auditors posing as taxpayers. As well as IRS compliance studies have found, paid preparers make significant errors that both harm taxpayers and reduce tax compliance. 10 years ago, the IRS sought to implement minimum preparer standards, including requiring otherwise non-credentialed preparers to pass a basic competency test, but a federal court concluded the IRS could not do so without statutory authorization. TAS recommends Congress provide that authorization. That's been an interesting debate as to whether you can have these standards for tax preparation, help, and assistance, and so on. So expand the IRS tax court's jurisdiction to hear refund cases. Under current law, taxpayers who owe tax and wish to litigate a dispute with the IRS must go to the U.S. tax court, while taxpayers who have paid their tax and are seeking a refund must file suit in a U.S. district court or the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. The tax court is an easier forum to navigate, and it has established relationships with the low-income taxpayer clinics and other pro bono programs that assist taxpayers when they litigate their cases in tax court. TAS recommends that taxpayers be given the option to litigate in all tax disputes in the U.S. tax court. Restructure the Earned Income Tax Credit, the EITC, to make it simpler for taxpayers to reduce improper payments. Yeah, that might be good. This is a complicated credit to figure. I mean, you need tax software to do it right, or else you're going to mess it up almost for sure. But in any case, TAS has long advocated for dividing the EITC into 2 credits. 1, a refundable work credit based on each individual worker's earned income unrelated to the presence of qualifying children, and 2, a refundable child credit. That would make more sense because this whole thing with, in any case, I won't get into that. For wage earners, claims the worker's credit could be verified with nearly 100% accuracy by matching claims on tax returns against Form W-2, reducing the improper payments rate on those claims to nearly 0. The portion of the EITC that currently varies based on the family size would be combined with the child credit into a larger family credit. That makes perfect sense to me. That would be a lot more clear. The national, and I'm not even, in any case, that would be better than they got now. I still have some thoughts on how to make it better than that, but the National Taxpayer Advocate published a report making these recommendations in 2019, and the TAS continues to advocate for it. Expand the protection of taxpayer rights by strengthening the Low-Income Taxpayer Clinic, the LITC program. The LITC program effectively assists low-income taxpayers and taxpayers who speak English as a second language. When the LITC grant program was established in 1998, the law limited annual grants to no more than $100,000 per clinic. The law also imposed a 100% quote match end quote requirement, meaning clinic cannot receive more in LITC grant funds than it is able to match on its own. The nature and scope of the LITC program has evolved considerably since 1998, and those requirements are preventing the program from providing high-quality assistance to eligible taxpayers. The TAS recommends that Congress remove the per clinic cap and allow the IRS to reduce the match requirement to 50%, where doing so would provide coverage for additional clinics. Other sections in the report contains a taxpayer rights assessment that presents performance measures and other relevant data, a description of TAS's case advocacy operations during fiscal year 2021, and a summary of key TAS system advocacy accomplishments, and a discussion of the 10 federal tax issues most frequently litigated during the preceding year. The section on most litigated tax issues for the first time contains an analysis of substantially all cases petitioned in the tax court rather than simply decided cases, providing a much broader view of issues taxpayers bring to the court. Also, for the first time, the report includes a section titled, quote, "At a glance," end quote, which provides census summaries of the 10, quote, "most serious problems," end quote. It is intended to give readers a quick overview of each issue so they can decide which ones they want to read about in depth. Please visit 2021 National Tax Advocate Annual Report to Congress for more information. There's a link to that here. Related items, links below. Complete report, 2021 Annual Report to Congress. Executive Summary, the Purple Book. There's links to those items. About the Taxpayer Advocate Service. TAS is an independent organization within the IRS that helps taxpayers and protects taxpayers' rights. Your local advocate's number is available in your local directory and at Contact Us. There's a link to that here. You may also call TAS toll-free at 877-777-4778. There'll be a link to this, so you can look up that number if you want. It'll be at the bottom of this. TAS can help if you need assistance resolving the IRS problem, if your problem is causing financial difficulty, or if you believe an IRS system or procedure isn't working as it should, and our service is free. For more information about TAS and your rights under the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, go to the Taxpayer Advocate Service website. There's a link to that here. You can get updates on tax topics at Your Voice at IRS. There's a link to that. There's a Facebook, Your Voice IRS. There's a Twitter page and a YouTube page. So there's links to those pages here, and there'll be links to this in the description.